Mr. Chachra, what do you make of this? Is this a signal, or is this an indication that there seems to be, this is anti-Islamist, feeling creeping up in a number of European countries? We have seen what, the Prime Minister, hopeful of Netherlands, has gone about saying. We know what Poland says from time to time. They take pride in the fact that there's not a single Muslim immigrant in their country. And now you have Italy also, in fact, sharing the same sentiment. What do you make of this transition that's taking place? Let's look at it from the point of view that India is also targeted from time to time for being anti-minority, where we have 200 million Muslims who live in the country, and it's all right to have a skirmish here or there, but the Western media makes a big deal about it. What kind of a deal should we make about what's happening in Europe today?
No, thank you for having me here, and I think these remarks are very unfortunate. And these come on the eve of the World or the International Migrants Day, but the week after the Global Refugee Forum, which is talking about the question of refuge in the world. But also today we are celebrating in our land, the point Giorgia was making, the World India's Minority Rights Day. So I think this is very unfortunate. I think these represent in themselves, and that's why I'd like to look at it in a slightly broader context in just one religion. These represent in themselves turn to what I would call majoritarian tendencies along religious lines and also along racial lines. The question of refuge in Europe has been talked about. So these represent those worrying tendencies. And I think this is a direct assault on multiculturalism, and I think this needs to be challenged. This is what I would like to say. For anybody in any part of the world to say that their cultures or their religions or their way of living has no space for another in any area of the world would be actually a denial of how we have evolved as societies, how we have evolved as the world. Not just would it be a denial of the past, it's also closing doors for the future of evolution of our societies, for the future of planetary, the way we are as, one intertwined planet. Vasudev Kutumbakam is always used on our land. Now, particularly for Europe to show this, that's a travesty. I mean, that's really a huge travesty, and particularly for leaders of certain European countries who themselves have been products of multiculturalism to join in and not condemn these kind of statements and send these kind of messages to their, sort of short-termist politics and to their far right or right constituencies are dangerous tendencies. That's what I'd say. Europe, we all know very well, and that's the message we should be sending. Yeah, for decades, for hundreds of years, with their guns, with their germs.
Mr. Chachra, if I may just interject for one quick second, only to, in fact, for the sake of a healthy argument between you and me, there are also elements in UK and Germany who've gone on to say that they would want to see Europe under Sharia.
Of course, I mean, you see, there are radical tendencies in all religions. Yeah, what do we want to stop those tendencies? I mean, you cannot generalize all Muslims as those who are championing Sharia, those who just want the rule of Sharia. So that generalization itself defeats the argument, Vineet. Equally well, there are right-wing elements, hard right-wing elements in Christianity as well. We forget crusades. We forget those wars which have been fought in the past. So do we want to sacrifice our futures for certain elements, whether within Islam or whether within Christianity or tomorrow within any other religion? And those battles, which only create battles of civilizations, battles of societies, basis of certain fringe elements or basis of certain fundamentalist elements. So we don't want to get there. The point here, as since you are asking for this debate, the point here would be to contain those tendencies, whichever religion they may be. For coming back to the question of Europe, for Europe to say this, those who have, sort of ruled over the world, plundered the world, created genocide in the world, and continue to do so with unequal terms of trade, and continue to create refuge through direct wars and through proxy wars. We saw what happened in Afghanistan. And then go on to say we do not want to welcome, instead of stopping those tendencies, they want to now close their borders for refugees entering. You see what Italy is doing. Italy has made a deal with the developing country Albania to offshore refugees. Similarly, UK has made a deal with Rwanda in Africa to say we will export our refugees there, you keep them there, we'll see the asylum processing there. So I think this fear-mongering, this kind of fear that we are spreading in society is not factually borne out and must be contested and challenged and must be stopped. We do not want a world which is monolithic.
Mr. Chachra, how do you respond to that? It's obviously a question of respecting the country that has given you refuge. It's also about the resources that you will be, of course, utilizing to live in that country. Should there be some sort of a semblance and respect towards that, as Joyita just pointed out?
For sure, there should be, Vinitji. I want to sort of still make a point that let's first simply understand and that number one, religion is not the only axis for identity. Race is an important one. Here is an assault on race. We saw that during the refugee crisis when Afghans were pushed out, the Afghan refugees, to make way for the Ukrainian refugees. So it's multiple axes of identity this work on. The question of immigration, which was being talked of, is not only targeted to one axis, which is religion. It is a racial axis as far as immigration law reform changes, the regressive changes that are happening. The third thing I want to say, and in the closing, is let's first understand, and these are facts borne out with history, these are facts borne out in this century, that the creation of refuge, the northern countries, the West, owes to this world. They are the ones who have created refuge through direct wars, through proxy wars in the past, division of our country, for instance. Who would you blame for that? But let's go back into all other instances of refuge, Syria, Afghanistan, wherever you're talking of. So creation of refuge has been a historic sort of push by the West, and therefore they must learn to sort of now embrace what are the outcomes. More than that, they should stop the acts, what they have been doing ceaselessly, of creating millions and millions of people, homeless people, without a past, without a future, hanging in history. So I don't think it's a charitable question. Yes, they need to respect, they need to, sort of equally well not be given to extreme forms and coexist and learn to coexist in multicultural way, but to also say that they are only, they have to sort of, they are like people who are asking for space in another country. Let's understand how this whole thing is created. Let's understand the question of refuge, and let's push for the idea which is called the common but differentiated responsibility, that the northern countries who owe to the world of the kind of refuge they have in the past and continue to create as I speak now. So I think this is something which is also, in a sense, a right of refugees. That is what I would like to argue. And sure enough, if we want a peaceful coexistential world, then norms have to be respected, irrespective of which group we are talking of. Thank you, Vinitji.
Mr. Chachra also wants to make a quick point. 10 seconds. 10 seconds, Mr. Chachra.
I mean, the whole thing didn't start off on the way it did with Hamas attacking. There's a deep, long history to it. And what Israel has done in that part of the world for the last 60 years, 70 years, we all know. So I don't think history starts on the 7th of November when this attack was made.
Okay.